Okay. Boom. We're live. We're live. Hello. Iceman J, Ray, Seth Roth, Nicola. Thank you all for being here so much. Here we go. It is Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. We are here. Philip, Morrow, Lars, Steve, Captain Chuck, Nathan, good morning. Welcome back to another market open. Here we go. We're into the new year. We're a day into it. I woke up today. I didn't feel the best. I'm not going to lie. Felt a little Just one of those days where you feel you know what I mean? But you wake up, you keep going, you keep trying, keep building, and you keep working. I mean, there's nothing else you can do other than you can keep working. I found a really good quote today. You know how we did word of the day? I think I kind of want to do quote of the day as well. I saw a new quote today that I really like. Well, I've seen this quote for a while, but I enjoyed the quote a lot, so I want to show you guys in a little bit. But let's get into the markets as well, see what's going on. Tesla had a very bad day yesterday. Tesla was down about 14%, getting very close to $100. It got to $105 at its lowest. I believe it's up in the pre-market. And anyone else notice the people on Twitter who just say legit, oh, I told you so, every stock is hot garbage and going down? Glitch Life, good morning. Yeah, I mean, people on Twitter that are just complaining that stocks are down are losers, to be honest, because like it's really easy to complain that a stock is down when the whole market's down. So, I mean, I wouldn't take them too seriously. But Tesla's at $107.76. It's down pre-market 0.32 after being down 12.24% yesterday. We are going to see what happens to this bad boy. I feel like Tesla's just waiting to literally fall off a cliff like a Tesla did the other day. Thank goodness it survived. But it's in a rough position. I put on Twitter yesterday, I kind of want to build out my Tesla position, but what if it keeps falling? LOL. Got a lot of responses on that one to DCA. And I'm like, yes, I get it, DCA. But also it's like, what if this bad boy keeps falling? I mean, look, I do think we are at a little bit of peak fear when it comes to Tesla. Tesla might be one of the most attractive investments at this price currently. I just think it's very early in January to be able to make that decision. And I think a lot of things have to be said before we ultimately decide that Tesla's at a meaningful valuation. Disney up a little bit in pre-market. Roku up a little bit in pre-market, up 1%. Palantir. So a new video came out by Palantir yesterday. I'm going to be reacting to it a little bit later today on the channel. That video seems to be them selling hardware now, which is interesting. Selling hardware. I wonder what implications that has to the U.S. government. I'm gonna do a reaction to the interview the video in a little bit, but it's a very interesting play that they're doing. So we'll check that out later in the day. Spotify up 1.25% at $82. Uber at $25. SoFi up at 4.5. NASDAQ 10,386, so 386 points away from being below 10,000. Coinbase at 33, and S&P 500 also at 380 as well. You always preach DCA, but say, what if it goes lower? Well, I don't think I would say I always preach DCA. I mean, I think DCA is subjective, right? If you believe it, like for Palantir, yeah, DCA because my conviction is very high. For Tesla, DCA is a little bit hard because my conviction is not that high. So if it does drop more and more into the 90s, I don't feel comfortable. If Palantir gets to $4, I feel very comfortable, right? So it's a question of like the highest conviction that leads you to do that. Just no Bukowski poetry. Guys, by the way, I don't think I ever showed you this, but I got this for Christmas from a friend. It's look at this. You know that quote? It's the Bukowski quote. Go all the way. If you're gonna try, go. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but my friend got me this for Christmas. It's a pretty dope quote. It's awesome. I like it. It's my favorite quote of all time. But the quote I was going to show you guys is from Albert Camus, which is that in a unfree I'll pull it up. I don't want to butcher the quote. But it was a good quote. Albert Camus is one of my favorite philosophers of all time, and his quotes hit home. His quotes are legit. The quote is, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And if you understand a little bit of Camus' philosophy, it makes a little bit more sense. But he's basically saying that the world is unfair. So in order for you to exist in a world that is indifferent to your existence, you have to act as if you have meaning, which creates a rebellion against the very nature of existence in life, trying to shut you down at every level. So that's what it is. Bro, did you switch the interface yet? No, I did not switch the interface yet, Chris, because I'm freaking busy and I have a lot of things to do. And maybe if you text me when I go to my studio to remember about the interface, then I'll switch the interface. But I did not switch the interface yet. And quite frankly, I don't even have the time to think about switching the interface because of how many freaking things I have on my plate. But I'm going to try to remember to switch the interface. Meta at 124, up 3.66%. It's interesting. I don't know why Meta is up today. Everything else is down. Tesla now switched. It's up a little bit in the pre-market. Rocket Lab 380, Palantir up 0.94. So things are up a little bit in the pre-market. Even Tesla was just down in the pre-market. Now it's up in the pre-market. So we're going to see how it goes. Make your own meaning in a seamlessly meaningless and different world. Yes. Austin, are you a fan of Camus? Because that's exactly what that quote means. It's a really, really good, quote. Tesla's triggering margin calls today. Yeah, that might be the case. If it gets low enough, then it's going to happen. TikTok is getting, Chris, I've actually been using TikTok a little bit more and like over the past couple of days. And I mean, TikTok's probably declining still, but I kind of liked it. It was not a horrible experience, and I just hadn't used the app for like a month. And then I used it the other day and I'm like, it's not too bad. But granted, I still think Meta with WhatsApp is just there's too much there, man. There's too much there. I thought Meta would fall to about 110 before I could pick up again. Now, again, this might be a little bit of a bear market rally. There's no real catalyst for Meta to be like, there's no reason Meta should be up. There's no reason any stock should be up. I mean, there's nothing really going on. I know Fed's minutes are today, I believe, at 2 p.m.-ish. I'm probably not going to be streaming that live because I'm just way too busy today. But I know they'll be talking today and they'll be saying some things. Google, some big news is out around Google. Microsoft apparently is launching a Bing search engine powered by ChatGPT. If you don't know, Microsoft has a equity stake in OpenAI, the company that developed ChatGPT. That will be interesting to see an actual mainstream search engine like Bing, which I think people only use if they accidentally land on Internet Explorer and they don't go to Google, they just search into Bing. To have ChatGPT integrated into that, if that gives you better results than Google, who knows, man? The search game is back on. There may be a lot of competition. TikTok is laying people off, advertisers pulling ads because of China spying. Yeah, that's the reason why it's hard to bet on TikTok. Again, you might like using the app, but it's hard to bet on it with this China stuff. It's really hard to bet on it with this China stuff. There's a debate if Tesla's a car company or a tech company or an energy company. What's your take? I believe Tesla's all three. I believe it should be valued as a tech company. I just believe this macro, given the potential lack of demand, is not going to be friendly to Tesla. But I do not believe it is a car company in and of itself. If they solve FSD, which it seems like they have the best chance of solving, it is a tech company. If they don't solve FSD, it's not a tech company. So we're going to see. Gabe says, I'm adding to my shorts today if there's a rally. Yeah, Gabe, I believe your conviction is like sky high at this point. I think you tweeted about it, right? You're like, at this point, you are just going to keep adding to your shorts, which quite frankly, I can't blame you, but I don't know. As inflation goes down, as the Fed speak, I mean, we're not going to get a pivot. We're not going to get a cut in interest rates, even if we get a little bit of declining inflation. 7.1, who knows how low it goes, if it even goes any amount meaningfully lower. So, I mean, I can't blame you for wanting to be short the market right now. Salesforce apparently is laying off people as well today. Key executives of Salesforce have left. The only real executive that's left is Mark Benioff, who's the CEO. The other co-founder, Brett Taylor, left, and a couple of other executives are leaving, which is pretty not good for investor confidence. As we can look at Salesforce right now, it's also done horrific. It's up right now in the pre-market, up 4%, but I mean, it's been down pretty badly in 2022. Salesforce, they want to do like $50 billion in revenue in 2026. I don't know if that'll happen, but we'll see. All right. January 4th, 2023, 9:30 a.m. You know what we got to do? The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. The stock market is officially open. Tesla opening up at 1.9% higher, 0.92% higher at 109. Meta just killing it at 127, up 2.34%. S&P 383. CRM, Salesforce 141. Rocket Lab. A lot of space companies got a little bit of a boost yesterday because Elon Musk's SpaceX raised at a $137 billion valuation. So, you know, if that company can do it, then maybe companies like Rocket Lab with a $1.85 billion market cap might be able to do it. Trading at 9 times price to sales, though. I haven't gone through their financials, but it looks a little expensive. But I mean, I'll try to go deeper and try to understand. Does anyone know what the revenue is or the trailing 12 months of Rocket Labs? Because I've not looked into them in the middle. Palantir up a little bit, 0.43%, 642. Roku at 40. Disney 90.21. Enphase 250. So Enphase is starting to get back down to reasonable levels, but we need it at 200 before we think we want to buy at all. Now, does it get there? I don't know. It's going to take a little bit to slash another 50 points, but we will see. Nvidia at 145, up 1.49%. ExxonMobil 105, Pepsi 179, Apple. So apparently, here's a tweet that I wanted to read to you guys. China's shipments of smartphones fell 34.1% year over year to 23 million handsets in November. This is within China. This is not the best news for Apple necessarily. China is a very big market for them. If shipments of iPhones or handsets or in general are falling down, that means people are not upgrading as much. And if people are not upgrading as much, we talked about this on the Daily Capital today, then that may not be the best case for Apple. Even if they're able to monetize through other means, the iPhone is like the biggest way that they make money. Baba, we got a Baba in the chat. Let me go to Baba. Benioff has been running the company for the benefits of employees and not shareholders. Benioff believes in stakeholder capitalism, which is different than shareholder capitalism. So yes, Benioff cares a lot about other people, but that means that investors are not likely going to get the best return on their money. Alibaba at $97, $580. Alibaba was at $319 in 2020. So its highs in 2022 were 115, 114. Okay, so it's down close to 20% since its highs, and it's stuck at 97. Lows were 58 in October. Wow, people could have picked up Alibaba for $58 in October. That's not a bad deal. I mean, it's up decently since then. Obviously, it's still a Chinese stock, which is the hard way to evaluate it, but it's still up since October. Don't touch Enphase. I agree with you, Chris. I'm not touching Enphase. Now, I like Enphase if it gets even lower and lower, maybe into the 180s, but Enphase is not. I'm not as bearish on the whole solar panel thesis, but the price is just not interesting. Amit, did you see the Palantir video put out yesterday? I'll be reacting to it today. I didn't even watch it in its entirety, but I will be watching it. It is an interesting idea. I believe they're selling hardware, so I want to look a little bit more at what they're doing. Amit, did you pick up any Tesla? Are you looking to get any more? No, I did not pick up any Tesla. I don't know, man. I'm a little scared of buying Tesla right now. It's just, you can call me whatever you want to call me for that, but I don't know. Like, Tesla seems like it's right, but it's also like, I just need more data. It's only been a couple days into January. Like, even if you buy Tesla at 120 versus 104, if you're long on the stock, I don't think it's like Palantir at 10 versus at 6. It's like, if you're long 10 years, it really doesn't matter. So to me, I'm not that worried about, I need to get it at 109 versus like 140. Because again, it's just not that big of a difference if you believe in the bull case. I don't fully know, given I'm trying to get all the sets of data around demand and FSD, and if this thing's actually happening, how big my conviction is. So my conviction is not there yet, but eventually will. All right, let's look at Apple being a potential $250 stock. That would make it close to a $4 trillion market cap company. Let's look a little bit at this. Amit, you talk about wanting to buy when your price target hits and you end up not buying. Well, I did say under 100, didn't I, for Tesla? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what I said. Maybe I said close to 100, under 100, but under 100 is where, because again, it's been 4 days in January. I just don't think you need to be super excited already.
To you.
Hi, Andrew.
Long-term prognosis on Apple. I'm a fanboy, as you know, of the product. The question is, are you a fanboy of the valuation?
I am. I think that this is a understandable concern given Tesla's miss. Really hit home hard the point that risk assets are off right now. Companies that have been beating and exceeding are now missing numbers. If you look at in aggregate, the stock that is most at risk with dollars at risk, it's Apple. So understandable what's happened with the sell-off here in the midst of uncertainty, unknowns, is that people are going to protect their assets and sell Apple. But I still haven't answered your question. What's my view? My view on the long term is still optimistic. I think that this is debatably one of the world's greatest companies. And ultimately is that if we think about the December quarter and the March guidance, let me just take the near term for a minute here, Andrew. The December quarter and March guidance, at first glance, this may be a disappointment. Recall that in November, Apple warned that some production issues are impacting iPhone demand. That's somewhat of an unknown. You really need to look at the current state of the business in the context of the December quarter and their commentary about March, really putting those two together. And so let me, one quick final thought here is that I do want to answer your question, is that what's the long-term prognosis? Let's take the case that I'm wrong here, is that their business is not strong, that something is awry. Ultimately is that consumers, they may delay for 3, 6, 9 months, but they're going to come back. They're going to be upgrading iPhones, Macs, iPads. And I think that that's going to be something that investors can lean into.
Now, friend of the channel, Chris, he hasn't upgraded his phone in 5 years. So I know not everyone is like Chris, but again, I think there are people out there that don't need to upgrade just because, like, I have my iPhone 12 Max Pro works. I never thought iPhone 13, never thought of iPhone 14. I don't know if I'm going to need an iPhone 15, to be honest. Like, it works fine. So I don't know how correct he is on people are going to have to upgrade. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of people will. I just don't know if it's enough to move the stock.
So we're looking at $125, $126 today. That's about a 20 PE, but that's backward looking. So you tell me, what do you think this thing should be valued at?
This is not investment advice, but I think this should be a $250 stock. And I put that in the case, if you look at the camp of companies like Coke and Disney and Caterpillar, the companies now trade at a 30 multiple. Apple's trading at a 21 multiple. And if you put a 30 multiple on what I think is going to be 2024 earnings, you get a much higher stock. And so I'm still very optimistic.
How much of that is dependent on just what might be the base case of what the devices and products that we know about versus the prospect of new products? We've talked about cars forever. We were talking earlier, I don't know if you were listening to the program, this article in the information that talks about their new AR, VR headset that they may be introducing at what seems like a very high price point. I'm very optimistic long-term about the technology, but I don't know if some of these things, at least in the very short term, are going to work.
Yeah, my optimism around where the stock can go ultimately is not based on that. I think that you can get even more upside based on the car or some mixed reality headset. I'm not optimistic that the mixed reality headset's going to have any impact on the business probably over the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years, maybe even potentially long-term.
Wow. Gene just said he doesn't think the mixed headset is going to have any impact on the business. Let me replay that again, because that I don't think that's what you're supposed to hear if you're at long Apple.
On the business probably over the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years. I'm not optimistic that the mixed reality headset's going to have any impact on the business probably over the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years, maybe even potentially. Long term, it's there. This car piece is something that I just kind of walk up to the line. I don't want to step over the line given some of my history and products. And so, but I do think Apple wants to build a car. Yes, this is going to be a tough year for EVs, but I think ultimately this is a massive market for Apple that's not baked into some of my prognosis about where this could ultimately go.
Okay, so there's a lot to analyze there. So a couple things in the chat. Ramu says he has an iPhone 6. Terry says he has an iPhone 8. Scott made it. Thank you for being here, Scott. Happy you like the no beard. And Stevie said that he also has an iPhone 8 and he works in tech. Baldwatch said I invest in Apple, but I use a Google Pixel 7 Pro. So I think that's an interesting thing. I someone just said I upgraded to the Galaxy 20 after 5 years of the S7. I don't need a new phone every year. Yeah, I just don't think there's a need for a new phone every year, especially when these things become that good. And that's why Apple was known to be reducing the battery time or the like speed of your phone every time you update to a new iOS. And like the court documents came out that said they legally did it. I think they paid a fine or something for that. But like everyone knew that was the case. Like, of course the phone has to get slower because like what else is the incentive to buy a new phone? And so this is the nature of capitalism that's also hard to grapple with as an investor. It's like you constantly need growth. We talked about it on the Daily Cowbell today. We were talking about which big tech stocks would you bet on over the next 5 years. And Apple was one of the stocks I would not bet on. Because just like, you know, Gene, one of the biggest Apple bulls, just said the mixed reality headset is going to have no impact on the business. I don't think the mixed reality headset also is going to have a huge impact on the business because I'm not big or long the metaverse, or I think it really matters that much. So what's the next sector of growth? And this is something also I've been learning as an investor that everyone needs to be okay with. Sometimes companies have grown so much that they just don't need to grow anymore. So when we think about something like a Tesla, I'm not saying Tesla's not going to grow anymore, but it is already up very high since 2018 and much more before that. So investors got rewarded. Elon gave people the return that he promised he was going to give them since they invested over the past 12 years. Now it's a question of how much more they can get from this level. And, I think Tesla has a long way to go, but to say that Tesla's stock has performed horribly, it's like, no, it's done phenomenally well. It's just a lot of people bought at the top, which is the problem. Same thing with Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook. They've all grown tremendously since they've IPO'd. Apple, obviously the biggest, going to almost a $2 trillion company. But the problem is now, what's the next sector left for them to be able to grow? Europe F them on the lightning cable. Yes, that's another issue. Europe also F them on the multiple app stores that they need to have now for some reason, which is going to be interesting to see how that happens. Ironically, when iPhone has USB-C port, sales will go up. That might be true, actually, because everyone uses those. That might be true. Maybe so I wonder how they switch to USB-C, how that's going to affect the design of the phone, because that's going to have to affect the design of the phone in some capacity, right? Gabe says, I like this morning show and hit the like button. Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate you. Everyone check out Gabe's channel as well. Just some awesome lives and some technical analyses around the market. I have an LG phone. Yeah, I'm never going to leave my iPhone because I love my iPhone. The iPhone's great, but I just don't need to upgrade it. And so I'm left wondering, where does Apple grow? It's not the freaking car, man. And if it's the car, that's not going to be priced into the stock for a long time. So if it's not the car, it's not the mixed reality headset, it's not the newest iPhone 75. Is it advertising? Is it so? Like, I don't think Apple's a big performer over the next 5 years. Like, I think it'll go up in general because people will buy the stock when the bull market happens. But I don't think it's like the stock that on a fundamental reason deserves to go up. Whereas in COVID, everyone was buying new devices. You could understand why it was going up. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder. All right, let's talk a little bit about SBF. He is pleaded not guilty. SBF has pleaded not guilty, and I'm going to play a little video about Bernie Madoff in a second. Why did SBF plead not guilty? Well, Daddy's Money probably has the best lawyers on the planet, and they're trying to get out of this deal, or at least try to get out of this deal with the least amount of jail time. Now, what's weird about this is Caroline Ellison, the CEO of Alameda Research, which was the sister trading firm of FTX, and Gary Wang, the co-founder of FTX, both pleaded guilty to what prosecutors were prosecuting them for, basically within a plea deal. For those that don't know what a plea deal is, it's like, all right, I'm wrong, but I'll give you a bunch of information to get the big guy, the real criminal, the head honcho, and you give me a reduced jail sentence, or you give me no jail sentence. Now, I don't think they're going to get a reduced, I don't think they're getting no jail sentence, but they'll probably go to jail for a little bit less than SBF. SBF pleaded not guilty, meaning he says, nope, I didn't do anything wrong. And I think their best case is going to be civil negligence versus criminal negligence, which is going to be a hard thing to prove, in my opinion. Gabe, thank you for the super chat. This morning show is great. PSA, if you're going to go long on something, don't buy shares, write a put instead. Gabe, we should name you. Thank you for the super chat. We should name you to like write a put Gabe or something. That's not the best name, but we got to think of something because that's like your thing. Like when you do merch, it's going to be don't buy shares, write a put. Like that's your thing. That's who you are. All right, let's take a look at Bernie Madoff. This new documentary is coming out on Netflix. This is the one I'm actually interested in on. Netflix actually finally has something I care about. And it'll give us an insight into Bernie Madoff and maybe a little bit of insight into the inner psychology of SBF.
Thank you, Joe. It's nice to see you. Congratulations on the
Good to see
film. So much to talk to you about the film itself, as well as I actually would love to talk about what you make of what seems like, we'll see whether it's a crime or not, but what's going on with this FTX situation and sort of how that relates to all the work that you've been doing on this. But start with this. We just showed this deposition. It was the first time I'd ever seen Bernie Madoff in prison on tape. How did you get access to that?
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. He's very very revealing. And we got this material from Helen Shateman, who was a victim's attorney. You know, she was representing victims in the clawback actions. She was obviously against how the clawbacks were happening, and she provided us with this incredible material that's never been seen before.
There's a number of sort of never been seen before elements of this. Perhaps the most provocative is this idea that's presented in the film that one of the reasons, if not the main reason, that he turned himself in fact, was because he was worried about being, quote, hit by the mob.
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the main reason he was that he turned himself in, but he's been, you know, he's a sociopath. Anyone who would look a widow in the eye and take all their savings, anyone who would do this to an Elie Wiesel or to a regular investor is a sociopath who has no empathy. And he's been widely credited with having turned himself in and looking out for his family. I think that's all BS. You know, there was a lot of dirty money in those hedge funds that evaporated. And I think he did the smart thing and took himself off the streets. And it was less about protecting people. And you know, and this narrative that he was this singular genius is also one of the reasons I wanted to do this show. He's been mythologized as somebody who just incredibly did this on his own. But there was, just like with Sam Bankman-Fried, there was a lot of sophisticated investors who should have known better, and a lot of institutions, including J.P. Morgan Chase, that had a view into his Ponzi scheme because they had billions of dollars were flowing through one checking account. And a lot of institutions, due to greed, I believe, just looked the other way.
Hey, Joe, the clip we just played from the deposition, I mean, that's kind of amazing. This idea that he's blaming his greedy customers for being the ones who made him do it. None of them, you know, decided to call on this or to pull their money out. That speaks to the sociopath description that you just gave of him.
Exactly. Classic narcissist. You know, I've done a whole bunch of serial killer shows over the last couple of years, Bundy, Dahmer, Gacy, and I consider Bernie a financial serial killer because he shares a lot of those qualities with serial killers, a complete lack of empathy and blaming other people. You know, John Wayne Gacy famously blamed his victims for the situation they put themselves in. And here you see Bernie blaming the greed of some of his customers. You know, it's just incredible. He destroyed the lives of so many, and he's blaming others. That's why I think, going back to your original question, Andrew, the idea that he magnanimously wanted to save his family and pled guilty, to me, is just a lot of bunk. It was self-preservation.
So this is kind of the same psychology I think that exists within SBF. I mean, the reason SBF did like 17 trillion interviews before he went to court, you would have to argue it's narcissism. You would have to argue it's the attention, because no lawyer would want their client to be saying all of this stuff publicly. I mean, you would want him to just shut up and just wait till the trial. But he said a lot of stuff. And I mean, he said some stuff like, oh, I don't know how to code, so I couldn't have coded a backway entry for customer funds to be diverted from FTX. It's like, yeah, but you could tell someone to code, which is what Gary Wang said you told him to do. So it's like, you're literally treating us like idiots. Like, I don't know how to code, I couldn't have done it. It's like, you don't need to know how to code to do this. You can get some smart people to do whatever you want them to do. You're the like, you know, so it's a scary way of thinking how people ultimately commit financial crime. I think Kevin O'Leary has a permanent reputation damage this time. Yeah, especially Kevin O'Leary. I mean, look, I think Kevin O'Leary could have helped mitigate his reputation damage by literally getting up and saying, I was wrong. I will never invest in someone like this again. This is my mistake, and I'm donating $15 million to charity. Literally, if Kevin O'Leary said those three things, which he can afford the $15 million, he can afford to say he's wrong because, you know, like, it's okay, you're wrong. People like seeing someone who's humble. And you say, I never will invest in someone like this again. Boom. And then Kevin O'Leary can afford to give $15 million away, bro. Out of all people, like, there's a lot of people that can't do that. Kevin O'Leary can. If he did those three things, I think people would be a little bit more lighter to them. Him saying I would invest in him again, it's like, again, my guy, come on now. This is not what we want to see. Now, I want to pull up something from Twitter. Someone put this in the chat. I think Ruksha, you put it in the chat. Paulo Tiramani. I don't know who this person is. I found out about, I've heard of Boxable. Apparently they're a majority shareholder at Boxable. They had this tweet this morning. Elon Musk doesn't need my money, but to show a little support, I've sold my Apple position, a healthy 8 figures, and dropped it into Tesla. Thanks for helping humanity. Very interesting. So again, I don't know who this guy is. I don't think he's like an investor person on Twitter. I think he's just a person who like puts out tweets about maybe business and stuff. He tweets about Boxable a lot. Do you think this makes sense? Do you think selling a majority Apple position, 8 figures, so that's about 10 million, right? 6 figures is 100,000, 7 is a million, so 8 figures has to be at least 10 million, and put it all into Tesla stock. Would you sell Apple for Tesla? I mean, that's the question. Would you sell Apple for Tesla? I think I would, because I think the growth potential for Tesla is way better than Apple. I think that's a no-brainer. But then again, lack of conviction on Tesla is definitely heating up for a lot of people. Amit, I agree with your take on what Kevin should have done, because most of the ridicule here is that he defended SBF, not that he invested FTX. Yeah, I don't think we get like mad at Sequoia or BlackRock for investing in FTX. Like, they saw an opportunity, they invested. They did horrible due diligence, but they should have done it. But like the lack of not caring that they made the mistake, and that, Sequoia can lose Sequoia can lose $1 billion. That's okay. But average people losing, like, for example, I have money in Robinhood. If Robinhood went under because they did some stupid shit and I lost, I don't know, I have like close to 90 grand in Robinhood. Like, if I lost that money, bro, that would not be good, man. That would be really sad. Like, that's a lot of money for me. I mean, that's money, right? So if I lost that money, I mean, that'd be heartbreaking. And there were people times, hundreds of thousands that lost significant amounts of chunks of that cash in FTX, and the lack of remorse that's really the sad part. And that's what I think regulators are mad about as well. Elon lives in a Boxable home in Boca Chica. I think, wait, he does. Chris, you're correct on this, right? Boxable is one of those like homes that is it like a 3D printing home? I might be wrong on this, but I think it might be a 3D printing home. And I think Elon has said he doesn't have an actual house. He lives in like a small house like that. Wow, 90K. Have you shown us your Robinhood portfolio? Yeah, I've shown it to you guys. Now it's at like 45K because it's down a good chunk on a certain stock that starts with a P and ends with a R. But nonetheless, it'll come back, hopefully, one day. In addition to that, if Kevin had donated 15 million to charity, you could bet your ass that he would use that as a tax. Yeah, that is so correct, Jason. He would have literally just put that money into taxes. And just reduced as taxes, and it's done. I think it's a home that unfolds from a box. Elon lives in a Boxable home. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought Elon lived. So maybe the Boxable co-founder, that's why he put it into Tesla, because Elon uses his product. Tesla at 111, up 3%. Oh, ARK. Let's go to ARK sales. She bought quite a decent amount of Tesla. Let me go to my Twitter and tweet it. By the way, guys, I'm on a search ban on Twitter. It's like really annoying. For some reason, if you search Amit is investing, I don't pop up on Twitter. And like multiple people have told me. And it's really sad because I did nothing on Twitter, bro. There's people that like post porn and all this shit. I did nothing, bro. I talk about stocks. Like, so if Elon, if you're watching this, can you please take me off the search ban? Because I don't know. All I did, bro, was shave my beard. That's the only thing. I posted a picture of that. Like, is that the reason I'm banned? Because I showed my face? I showed too much skin, Elon? Is that what we're doing? Because I really don't want to be on a ban on Twitter. I like Twitter, and like it sucks that I'm search banned. All right, so ARK bought 144,000 shares of Tesla in her ARK KK fund, 31,000 shares of Tesla in ARK KQ. And you can imagine an average price about 109, 110, maybe 108. So she bought a significant amount of Tesla yesterday, and loaded up. What is your average buy price in Robinhood? And for Palantir, it's like 1780, something like that. So yeah. So ARK. So the other stock that she's buying a lot that has been interesting is Verve Therapeutics. This is in the ARK G fund. I've been learning a lot more about genomics. I've just been like studying it a lot more, not enough to massively invest or take a bet on a big company. But the ARK G fund, I think, is one of those funds that actually might outperform the ARK KK fund. Because the ARK G fund actually has like a ton of the ARK KK fund actually has like a ton of losers already, like like Square and Zoom and Coinbase and all this stuff. But the ARKG fund actually might have a lot more people that are excited for it. Dan said, it's like I could have not been in Hawaii. I don't know how to pilot a plane. Yeah, pretty much. Because the house is halfway between SpaceX and Giga Texas, that keeps the Boxable home as a guest house. Yeah, and that's also probably the reason why Elon doesn't want any like permanent residents at the end of the day to be doing that stuff. Okay, let's take a look at another thing. On CNBC. Other than that, the market is relatively flat today. There's not any crazy big news. Nothing has really happened. Tesla's been the biggest news over the past couple of days, to be honest. Let's listen to Kramer. Talk a little bit about the workforce. Now, he did have a quote yesterday. He said that if you own crypto, you are an idiot. That is what Kramer said. He said, if you own crypto, you are an idiot. I'll let you guys say what you want to say about that.
Roadmap begins with tech troubles, though. Salesforce announcing cuts, and both Apple and Tesla seeking to claw back those losses from yesterday. Plus, fraud and scams alert, regulators delivering a joint warning to banks over crypto risks. And GE completes the spinoff of its healthcare unit, set to start trading today. We'll begin, though, with Salesforce's plans to cut about 10% of its workforce as part of a restructuring. In a letter to employees, Mark Benioff explained, quote, the environment remains challenging and our customers are taking a more measured approach to their purchasing decisions. I've been thinking a lot about how we came to this moment. As our revenue accelerated through the pandemic, we hired too many people leading into this economic downturn we're now facing, and I take responsibility for that, Jim. Total employee base, 79,000. You could be talking about 8,000 employees.
Yes, and also the Salesforce Tower. I mean, the work from home has really left it so that they have way too much real estate. But let's just back up for a second. This is the first of many, I think, and it's interesting that Mark's doing it. Remember, he does have Starboard in there, and they've been pushing for cost cuts. Sometimes people say they've been looking for up to 20%. This is 10%. Mark's the first person, I think, that really says, look, we overhired. And it's interesting that he's the first person because he's the one, as he says, it's family. And it is very hard for him to cut the Ohana. I do think that it got bloated. They still have good growth, but people felt their gross margins weren't that good. This should flow right to the bottom line. It's brutal. I know, Mark, it's harder for him than most because people are 1-1-1 in terms of how much money they give away. And it's remarkable that he's the first. The other guys need to do it. And if they don't do it, they're going to see stocks going lower. We obviously, if you take a look at Meta, they did it last year. And there's a remarkable move. So I think people are waiting for Silicon Valley to own up.
Yeah. When you say the other guys need to do it, I mean, are we talking about, we're going to talk about this downgrade of Microsoft today. We've been waiting on Google. We'll talk about Amazon raising a little bit of debt.
Think about what happened at Google. They were doing hiring right up to the moment that things slowed. Now, it takes a long time to be hired by Google. It takes many. There's a big filter. They have to figure out how to lay people off. Amazon, when will Andy Jassy bite the bullet? I mean, if you want to think about a company that overbuilt during the pandemic, I'd say that Amazon is the number one company that overbuilt. Where are the cuts? They have to happen. Apple, they have their own set of problems that have to do more with supply, I think, than demand. Where is the admission that the quarter was not what they wanted, even though I think that the demand side, which is what I care about the most, is fine. The demand side is fine for Salesforce, by the way.
He's actually correct on that. The demand side for Salesforce is fine. I mean, every company in the world, I think, I'm being hyperbolic, but a lot of companies use Salesforce. But Mark Benioff is being very honest that, look, they overhired and they have to cut. And, Meta, Mark Zuckerberg had to do that. Google had to do that. A lot of these big tech companies that overhired during the pandemic had to get rid of some of their employees because they just couldn't afford it. Ishan, BW Amit, how are the bumps? I don't have too many bumps from the shaving, if that's what you're talking about. There was like one cut here and it's gone away. So it's been pretty much okay. Now, granted, the thing about Salesforce is that they want to hit 50 billion in revenue in 2026. And with Salesforce has a lot of employees because they're a very, very, very big company. Profitability for shareholders is the question at the end of the day. The other thing about Salesforce is they're innovating in a lot of places when it comes to data and data analytics. They're not just like a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. They do a lot more things than that. But Salesforce has been one of those B2B analytics stocks that honestly Palantir gets compared to in terms of the trajectory of growth. And I wouldn't invest in Salesforce at this valuation at this stage over something like a Palantir that, if it follows the Salesforce trajectory, will be a 10 to 15x over the course of the next 10 years. And so we will see if that happening. Any company that has worked from home for too long, I will dump. I actually agree with that, man. Like Slack, which is owned by Salesforce. Yeah, I think they paid a lot for Slack, but yeah, they got Slack. I think I agree with that. I think there are some work from home initiatives that are good, but a lot of work from home ends up just being bad for employee engagement and retention and just like collaboration. So if you're in a job where you have to come up with new products and creative ideas, it's not the easiest. Now, if you're just doing administrative stuff, then it's no big deal. Other than that, it's a bit harder. Salesforce stock comp is ridiculous. I haven't looked into their stock-based compensation, but I wouldn't imagine it's not ridiculous because they spend a lot of time and effort on rewarding employees in that company. Okay. I think that's it for me, everybody. That's good for me. That's the market open. Look, I found this podcast that I'm going to put in the chat today. This is from November 2021. I just put it in the chat. This is a podcast I did with someone around Audia, my startup. Last day to invest, January 13th. You can check out the link in the bio. Let me know if you have any questions. But if you guys want to learn a little bit more about how I'm thinking about my startup, it's 23 minutes. It has 15 views. It's just so crazy, bro. I came across this today because I was talking to an investor. They want a little bit more information. So I wanted to send them some details. And I found this podcast of me talking about Audia that I forgot I even did in November. And I sent it to them. So if you guys want to check it out, it's in the description. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. One more video coming out today. I'll be reviewing the new Palantir video about SkyKit. I have no idea what this is. I haven't even fully seen the video. I'll be doing a reaction to this after the stream ends. Then I'll upload that. And Daily Cowbell will be launching in an hour as well. So you can check that out. Futbucker says, don't leave us. I'm sorry. Also, Futbucker, you have to check your WeFunder because you have to verify your ID. Otherwise, your investment's not going to go through. I just saw the notification today. So you have to verify your ID to make sure the thing goes through. Gabe is going live on why he's shorting Enphase today. All right, everyone tune into Gabe. He's going live for why he's shorting Enphase today. So we'll have to do that. You need a live webcam so he can check in periodically. Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, everybody. I will see you later throughout the day. Thank you all for joining the live stream. It means the absolute world to me. And I'll see you tomorrow on the Market Open. Bye-bye.